An artist should never be a prisoner of himself, prisoner of style, prisoner of reputation, prisoner of success. There are always flowers for those who want to see them. Today's art history lesson is on Henri Matisse, and these were some of his quotes to other artists. We are going to look into this French artist and intense colorism which made him into a wild beast. See you on the other side.
The Sunday Painter. Please click and subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget the little bell so you will be the first when we have an inspirational idea.
Henri-Émile Benoit Matisse, 1869–1954, was a French artist, known for his use of color. He was a draftsman, printmaker, and sculptor, but is known primarily as a painter. Here are some of his early works. I find his works beautiful. Like most artists I know, they start out by copying the world around them, get in as much detail as possible. As time goes on, they start to interpret the world and removing what is unnecessary, and simplifies the story with color and brushwork. Now on to the wild beast. The intense colorism of the works he painted between 1900 and 1905 made him one of the Fauvists. At the start of the video I said what made him a wild beast. Fauvism means wild beast in French. Fauvist was called this by the way they attract the canvas with bright colors and heavy simple brushwork. He developed a rigorous style that emphasized flattened forms and decorative pattern. Matisse was born in northern France, the oldest son of a wealthy grain merchant. He went to Paris to study law, working as a court administrator. He first started to paint in 1889, after his mother brought him art supplies during a period of convalescence following an attack of appendicitis. After that, he decided to become an artist, deeply disappointing his father. In 1891, he returned to Paris to study art at the Académie Julian and became a student of William Adolphe Bouguereau and Gustave Moreau. I will do videos on these artists later. John Russell introduced him to Impressionism and to the work of Vincent van Gogh, who had been a friend of Russell, and gave him a Van Gogh drawing. Matisse's style changed completely, abandoning his earth-colored palette for bright colors. Fauvism is a style that began around 1900 and continued beyond 1910. The movement as such, lasted only a few years, 1904 to 1908. The paintings expressed emotion with wild, often dissonant colors, without regard for the subject's natural colors. Matisse was recognized as a leader of the Fauves, along with André Durand. The two were friendly rivals. Work from this period set him on a career-long path that he described as construction by colored surfaces. This approach remained central through the various stages of Matisse's body of work. Matisse had come under the more progressive influence of Georges Seurat and Paul Signac, who painted in a pointillist style with small dots of color rather than full brushstrokes. Matisse continued to emphasize the emotional power of sinuous lines, strong brushwork and bright colors. Matisse tried to capture a mood rather than merely trying to depict the world realistically. Matisse continued to delight and surprise his viewers with his signature elements of saturated colors, flattened pictorial space, limited detail and strong outlines. The decline of the Fauvist movement after 1906 did not affect the career of Matisse. He traveled to Algeria in 1906 studying African art and primitivism. His frequent Orientalist topics of later paintings, such as odalisques, can be traced to this period. This would affect his work to the end. In 1906, he also met Pablo Picasso, who was 11 years younger than Matisse. The two became lifelong friends as well as rivals. One key difference between them is that Matisse drew and painted from nature, while Picasso was more inclined to work from imagination. There is a lot of information during the war years, a wife and kids. This would make the video very long and I want to get to my favorite art of Matisse. The cutouts. Diagnosed with abdominal cancer in 1941, Matisse underwent surgery that left him chair and bedbound. Painting and sculpture had become physical challenges, so he turned to a new type of medium. The cutout. With the help of his assistant, he began creating cut paper collages, or découpage. He would cut sheets of paper, pre-painted with gouache by his assistant, into shapes of varying colors and sizes, and arrange them to form compositions, an art form that was not quite painting, but not quite sculpture. I did mention an assistant. Lydia Nikolaevna Delektorskaya, 1910 to 1998 Paris, was a Russian refugee and model and stayed with Matisse from 1932 onwards. Born in the Siberia, the only daughter of a pediatrician, she was orphaned at 12, when both parents died in successive epidemics of typhus and cholera. She fled from the Russian Revolution of 1917 to China, wanting to become a doctor, and was accepted in the medical faculty of the Sorbonne, but the high fees charged to foreign students were out of reach and she ended up a penniless exile in Nice. Barely surviving, in 1932, she found temporary work with the Matisses, first as a studio assistant, then domestic help. It was 3 years before the painter asked her to sit for him. Lydia was 25, Matisse 65. Working very close to Matisse, his wife of 40 years said it her or me. Matisse chose his wife and let Lydia go. His wife left anyway, and during this time Lydia tried to shoot herself in the chest. He talked Lydia to coming back and she did. Wow. Lydia was his great muse, model, manager and companion, staying by his side for the rest of his life. Her story is interesting and she wrote a few books. You should check them out. Onto the paper cuts. He called it painting with scissors. Matisse said, "Only what I created after the illness constitutes my real self, free, liberated." Moreover, experimentation with cutouts offered Matisse innumerable opportunities to fashion a new, aesthetically pleasing environment. The cutouts started small but grew in size as time went on. Although the paper cutout was Matisse's major medium in the final decade of his life, his first recorded use of the technique was in 1919. Matisse generally cut the shapes out freehand, using a small pair of scissors and saving both the item cut out and remaining scraps of paper. With the help of Lydia, he would arrange and rearrange the colored cutouts until he was completely satisfied that the results. After having cut out of the shapes, the second part of the creative process entailed pinning the cut pieces of paper to the walls of his studio, which created a garden-like world of organic shapes. Lydia painted and arranged the paper cuts for Matisse. I find the cuts moving. The more I study them and learning the history, the more I feel the works. You should bring them up and try a few yourself. You will find it very rewarding. As to all things, Matisse died in 1954 at the age of 84. His 5-decade career had produced much groundbreaking art. If you liked the video, please subscribe for more art history documentary lessons. Thanks for watching.